And welcome back to BLOCKTV, where it is time for Pump or Dump. That's when we examine the dominant news narratives of the week to see if we agree or disagree with the news agenda, meaning, do we dump it, do we pump it in favor of another? So to do that, I am joined by BLOCKTV's crack team of reporters, starting with, of course, females first, tech maven Ron Spitzer. There we go. Next to her, the boy that is the joy, Zachy Hennessy. But we cannot forget the man with the German last name, Yonah Hochhauser, the man with the eye on crime, and of course, Asher Westrup Evans, BLOCKTV senior correspondent with the two last names. Now, as always, 2 rounds of topics and a limited time to state your case, meaning just 1 minute. And we are going to start with, yes, Yonah Hochhauser. Yonah Hochhauser, you picked Bitcoin price versus burgers for Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think that I take some of the blame for it, but too often in the crypto sphere we focus on the price of Bitcoin, the price of cryptos, which it is important, especially if you believe Bitcoin is a store of value and other cryptos are stores of value. But I think right now, and my goal for 2020 is to actually get use cases, is to actually use the Bitcoin. Great, it has money, it should hold its value, but it should also be used to then be transferred for goods and services. So today I want to highlight in Venezuela, a great use case for Bitcoin, a bad use case or bad living case for people living there is Burger King in Caracas, Venezuela. They are accepting Bitcoin through crypto buyer service as well as Ethereum, Dash, Litecoin, BNB, and Tether. This is what I like to see. I like to see that you have the crypto. It's a great technology. The technology is there. Now is time. It's 2020. Now is time for the use cases. I love a good hamburger. I can walk in. It's a place that's accessible to everyone. And I really hope that 2020 brings more of these things. Bitcoin for burgers.
So folks, do we think junk food is the use case?
Yeah,
why not?
Well, folks, let me tell you, if there's one thing the kids love, it's that junk food. You give them a Twinkie for Bitcoin, suddenly everybody wants the Bitcoin because they like the Twinkie. That's my argument that I made.
Profound, but on a wider, these big international franchises, they fundamentally work, around the world. They've got headquarters, all across the globe, and institutions and franchises all across the globe. You've got a place where the fiat currency of that particular country is not stable, is not reliable. This is a prime use case for cryptocurrencies. They're able to move their money in and out as necessary, able to keep the corporate wheels lubed up and turning in a way that, unfortunately, Venezuela is struggling with in its own currencies.
Conscientious objector, anyone?
No, I'm into
You're with it? You're in it?
Scenario. If we're looking at, I've been saying this for like a year, guys, but the man said it now, so hopefully we'll be in on it.
Well, another key point is it's already, we're already using Bitcoin to all go out and buy drugs, right? That's the main narrative. So
I don't know, Asha, speak for yourself.
I don't know. Wait,
so you're gonna have something to munch on while you're on your drugs. So I think this is just a community marketing genius out there, Burger King getting ahead of the
The
trend.
real competition is how many scandalous things can people say in 1 minute.
Or is it just a use case the second McDonald's jumps in? Because that's what we need. We need some
I
corporate
got something that's
competition.
completely non-controversial to say, which is that they've been buying pizza with it for the longest time, and if you can buy the pizza with it, you got to buy the burgers.
The burgers.
Oh, there you go.
And
it's funny.
I cannot. This is a hands down glorified win for you, Yonah.
No, thank you.
You done it.
The one day there is no prize.
When does that happen? But and we're moving on to Iran with Craig Wright Mess versus Binance US joins committee. Your minute begins now.
Right, so, CSW again in the headlines this time. Is he going to give them the money? Is he not going to give them the money? Spoiler alert, he's probably not going to give them the money.
Yeah, think.
But I mean, it's nice to keep waiting for that. Now, Binance didn't only, cut off and have a different service in the US, but they're really trying to get in on that US business like wholeheartedly to the point where they're joining the Chamber of Digital Commerce, the initiative, which pretty much is the only thing that's getting blockchain into policy or in talks with policymakers in general at it all. So in this effort to kind of be there within the change of policy, Binance is like, hey, we're going to join this, the Chamber of Digital Commerce, and we're going to advocate for what we believe in this technology. I think in the realm of Binance and the moves they make, an announcement of theirs not being a launch of something, but rather, hey, we're going to be in this policy thing, we're going to try to educate, and we're going to advocate for blockchain. It's kind of a big deal for them.
Look,
Yes, Usher.
My beef here is Binance US is but a hollow shell of true Binance. Has almost nothing to do with the name other than, again, to keep bringing up the term, franchising rights. Their liquidity is not attached to the main network. They're not associated in a number of different ways. In fact, it's kind of like the runt of the litter that people just kind of want to keep in the corner. It maybe will die eventually. And, I don't know. I don't like to talk about it too much because I think it personally is just a way of keeping their foothold in the US when in reality they're working in other markets.
I'm all for always dumping Craig Wright because he's such a joke.
True.
I mean, he really should be dropped from the entire. He should not be named any further. So I'm totally on
There's
side
a
with
list
that.
of those, one can argue.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will agree with your pump as well. I do think that especially when it comes to exchanges who want to be accredited and regulated in the U.S., this is important. They do need their own lobby. They do need their own council, their own committee. They need to band together because by themselves they're not strong enough right now in America. And if they all band together, they do have a better hope of reaching regulators' ears.
When it comes to Binance, though, what do we think is behind this move? I tend to agree with Usher. Definitely pump it, but also look at what is the meaning of it, and is it as clean-hearted as we think
Of course,
it is?
it's not clean-hearted. I don't think anybody's thinking that any move that companies like this make is 100% clean-hearted. But if the evil is, hey, let's educate and advocate a little bit, we're going to lobby along the way and get
That's
our
kind of like
our
people
agenda
arguing that
in.
Facebook is a necessary. Sorry, that Libra is a necessary evil.
Libra isn't necessarily evil, but we don't want
Is a
the
necessary
people.
evil.
Is a necessary evil.
Is a necessary evil.
Yes, perhaps. Same just goes here with how Binance is running. If at the end of the day the bottom line is educating and advocating for this technology to get out, then these people are around. They could have launched a different product and then been in the headlines once again. This is a different take. So win.
Oddly enough, Zaki doesn't win this one. You do. Okay. But
figure.
Zaki,
Sorry,
you do,
Zaki.
but you do get a chance because you're the next one up with. The topics are dump smelly old Bitcoin, ouch, versus the fresh new Hotness. And Zaki, your minute begins now.
I'm ready. Okay, so you heard about this Bitcoin thing that they're talking about in
No,
the
what
news
is
all the
that?
time? It's all over the place. We said about approximately 1 million words about this Bitcoin thing. And I feel like it's time. You got the 220s in a row. That's the year now. And so you got to take the time and you have to reflect and you have to say, what is it that we can do to spruce up the old Bitcoin cryptocurrency industry? And number one is to take out the Bitcoin. You got to push in something else, the freshest of the new hotness. Some people say it's an altcoin season plea. Doesn't even need to be. Maybe, it's just a new look for Bitcoin. You change that logo up. You turn it around, you look at it some kind of way different. Maybe if you take the Bitcoin logo and you flip that, then that's suddenly some fresh and new. Also, a great option is Dogecoin, which I believe that most people should invest in because it's really great and I still have $20 in it. Please help me.
Ah, okay. That's
Okay, no, let me raise an
take
argument. Do we think that if something didn't work, just changing its name will work?
I mean, someone famous once said something about roses and other names smelling like poop. I can't remember exactly how the whole saying goes.
Nah, that doesn't sound right
But
to
I
me.
will say, Zaki, what is the fresh new hotness?
What is
you
the
clearly
fresh-
have your ear to the
exactly,
ground.
the
I wanna
hotness.
know.
Where is
I'll
the
tell you.
hotness?
What is the
Let me
hotness?
just, hold on. Let me just.
Is it Dogecoin? What was that? 2012, 2013?
Hotness. It's Dogecoin 2020. That's number one. And the other thing is you change the color palette on Bitcoin.
I'm gonna be really cool and cement myself as an eternally cool individual by saying, okay, Zuma.
He's done it.
Ooh.
My
Ouch.
God, he's evolved.
No, I even got that one, which is amazing. Zaki, I don't know. I think the panel wins that one. I'm
Dang.
sorry.
Well, I'm in the panel, so that's
No. But the rest of the panel, I'm going to give you the rest of the show or the segment to get to that hotness essence, and I think this will thank you.
Okay.
But Asha, you're up next with
Yeah.
a timely topic. You want to dump death in general. Good luck. Versus the general's death.
Yeah.
Your minute begins now.
Now, I'll admit this name comes more from the convenience of wordplay than too much about the death in general. Though we say death of Bitcoin, people keep talking about that, so let's dump that. But more importantly, the death, of course, we're talking about Qasem Soleimani, the senior Iranian general who was killed in a US airstrike. Now that had an amazing and interesting impact on the markets. Directly after the airstrike was formally announced, we saw that markets around the US and Europe dropped considerably. Stock markets we're talking about there. Oil, as expected, surged, and other commodities had a bit of a bump as people were concerned about supply shocks. And then Bitcoin came along about 4 hours behind trend, did see a 5% surge, which some attribute to shocks in the market and people flooding to safe haven assets. Although others have come out and said that's complete nonsense. Bitcoin is an uncorrelated asset. It's doing its own thing. 4 hours behind the curve can hardly be said to be a timely response. But whatever it is, this is the sort of event we need to look at as use case examples and see if Bitcoin is living up to its name as a safe haven or if it fails in that narrative.
Fascinating topic, first of all, in that respect. 4 hours, I would argue, maybe because the sphere people are all over the place and they wake up much later than others. One can argue, but what do you guys think? First of all, very true. Oil prices spiked up like it's 2003 all over again. What do you want to say?
Yeah, come nuclear holocaust time, I'm not sure you're going to be able to go around and barter for food with your Bitcoin. So
very alarmist. There's stages between killing one general and nuclear holocaust.
Listen, and that Bitcoin is an anti-inflationary inflation currency. I don't see it as a defense against the destabilization on a world war scale. Okay. I see it holding its own when things. Because of its nature, as in it works really well in a functioning
network system.
Yeah, it's a network system. It really relies on the continuing functioning of the world markets. It's a bet against central banks continuously printing money, quantitative easing, and those type of things. I think it's a defense against going forwards. It's not a defense against the world going backwards, which is world war.
And you mentioned that
in which case you see people schlepping around their gold.
Yeah. At that point, it's survival of the fittest, my man. That's why
bottle caps. If video games have taught me anything, bottle caps.
Yeah, you got to trade those currency. Now you did mention that there are steps between nuclear holocaust and the death of one general, and those steps are the meandering steps of one bumbling orange man. So I think that we're on our way.
I wasn't taking this to a political place, Zachy, but you hold your views as they are. All I want to say is that I think this is the sort of test case from a purely market-based perspective. We need to see if Bitcoin lives up to its name. In the 10 years it's existed, and in the last 5 years or so that it's really had enough liquidity to matter, Bitcoin has not had the sort of large-scale use test cases to see if it'll succeed in a failing market or succeed in times of high chaos, drama, or problems, and this could be the start of something.
But just a bit of playing devil's advocate here.
Please.
We saw this has been the narrative over and over, I think especially throughout 2019, right? We had the Hong Kong protest and everybody's like, that's it, everybody running to Bitcoin. And the same thing now, Iran. This is an ongoing narrative. So when do we say this isn't happening anymore?
Well, first of all, the next several weeks, literally the next several weeks will determine if the West is going into another war within a different region. Hong Kong is still localized, to that place, to Hong Kong. I think the next several weeks will be defining, and though I want to calm everybody down, Fiona, please don't fall asleep, is that we do not think that World War III is right on our doorsteps. But, Usher, you win this one too. And we are moving on to round two, where Yona has picked his first topic for round two, and that is Bitcoin price versus buds on the blockchain, which, okay, your minute begins now.
Yeah, so I'm dubbing the same thing. This is very similar to my first one. I'm dubbing, once again, the price. I'm not going to go into again why. I just explained it. But this time, another use case which I find very valuable. This time, it's not a crypto use case. It's a blockchain use case. Strain Secure is a marijuana strain tracking blockchain developed by TrueTrace that will track the different marijuana strains on the blockchain. Now, this is very important. What is the good things about blockchain? It's immutable. It's transparent, and these are big issues facing legal marijuana today, where it's tough to know if you're purchasing the marijuana where the strain came from. Can I trust the person who's selling me this?
Not only that, for medical reasons as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you want to know, hey, is this good for this medicinal purpose? Will this make me sleepy? Can I trust this? What strain is it really? They are with in cahoots with Weed MD and Harvest One Cannabis, two major suppliers to track marijuana strains on the blockchain. I think this could be a massively good use case for blockchain. Talk about going mainstream. Cannabis is the way to go.
Is cannabis the way to go while still within parts of the world it's considered a terrible, horrible drug that can, ruin your children's lives?
Not for long.
I'm just saying, I feel very prescient here. I didn't even know your second topic. I said buds and burgers, they mix real well together. So... not to be reductionist, the medical use case is very important.
Actually, there's a beautiful correlation here, because seriously, if you know where your pot came from, then you deserve that munchie.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But even like past the whole marijuana specific
Please.
use, I think that the supply chain thing with blockchain, that is blockchain's superpower, is streamlining any system
And tell
like
me,
that.
then why has that not become the use case?
I think it is.
Yeah, it's an
I think
enterprise
it
level.
is.
Look
It's
at
just not the
IBM, look at
sexy
their trade
use
lens, look at their food trust.
Yeah,
you know, they're doing
people
amazing
are
work
using
with turning logistics, massive logistics operations into streamlined, smooth conditions, and they're getting buy-in. They're
People are
getting massive
paying
buy-in.
attention.
Okay, but the
Permissionless,
greater
it's-
public doesn't know about
It's
that.
enterprise.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
all
yeah.
the public.
Exactly.
Need to know about it.
I'm not tracking my local my house pantry on the blockchain.
Which
it's
we
not
could.
it's an
We could.
enterprise.
But-
Customers won't see it.
But if the company is using blockchain, then you can go up with your phone on the app they told you to download,
Yeah.
press a thing in, like you have no idea that blockchain is the reason you know where your rice came
Yeah,
from.
Right.
QR codes. You could scan the QR code of the cannabis strain to track it from seed to joint. The same
Or
with
edible,
the,
or
I just
oil.
want
The
to say
same
that
with
from
Walmart.
seed to joint is a tweet.
Yeah, from
seed-
Walmart
Okay.
too. You could
From
track.
seed to shining
From
joint.
seed to
You could track the lettuce at Walmart also from farm to table or
no,
the devil's
no,
lettuce.
Yona, you're killing it. I mean, we literally,
Giving
you
a
know,
burning
junk food
tagline.
and pot are the future. And we're going to move on to Iran with lack of regulation versus, wow, France approves an ICO. Convince me on that one. Your minute begins now.
I mean, there's no convincing it happened. But, so, you know, we spoke about before my, you know, pump and dump was surrounding U.S. regulation specifically.
Right.
And we know that there's a lacking in that area. For God knows what reason, honestly, there's no way about
Well
it.
put.
But the AMF, the Authority for Financial Markets in France, recently granted an ICO the, approval. This was earlier this week. It gave the approval, as in last week. It gave the approval as a condition based on certain, you know, conditions and factors that the company essentially met at the end of the day. And France was like, great, if you've registered with us, if you have some, you know, New York customer AML regulation in place, we're going to work with you and we're going to be okay with how you work and your
Right.
company will be fine, which is something that you don't see. So, you know, we're saying we don't have to reinvent the wheel on these things. But especially in the U.S., you have, you know, Atom, which is a you know, consortium of a bunch of crypto companies trying to push through these regulations. And ultimately, you see, ooh, just kidding.
Somebody finish your line. Ultimately, you see.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Very clearly.
Ultimately, you see that if the nation state, one can argue, if they're regulating the space, then it's legalized. Okay.
And people follow the rules.
Well, again, going back to our old friend's conversation about marijuana, that's not necessarily so. Just because it's being regulated doesn't make it fully legalized yet. Things can operate in gray areas for a
Right,
long
but,
time. But it's a
right,
step.
which is what
It's a step.
happened with the ICO boom, and
Right.
France was like, "Hey, how can we make this okay for us?" And
Right.
and they were like, "These things make it so that we are comfortable with this company doing this thing."
Taking
Ultimately,
positive steps.
Yeah, I do think, and I'm agree with you. I do think it's more constructive instead of banning things or saying no to things to improve things and make it so that it's a positive. So instead of saying no ICOs, working with companies to make sure ICOs aren't destructive, but instead help the consumers and the clients of that ICO.
No, and if you regulate that space, then ICOs that are complete, pardon my French, bullshit, won't enter that space, and that's what we want.
And I think it's healthier than the sort of approach that the crypto markets have taken internally of just cycling through acronyms until, you know, one
Yeah.
gets used up and then you have to move on to the next
Very
one.
true.
That doesn't imbue
But it also
confidence. It
makes-
has, you know, inclinations of a
Yeah.
Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme where people sort of feel like this sort of great rising complexity at
Right.
the expense of good.
But also
functional
on the
trading.
flip side, it makes the government more privy to what these companies are doing, which is like, if you want to try to understand something, why would you not want to see the information?
No, but maybe, you know, the argument is true. Maybe the revolution needs to be regulated. Wondering. Okay, Iran, once again, you guys are killing it. Everybody wins it, no prizes. Zaki, you're next up with, we're not dumping anything, but we're going to pump. Seriously? Pumping crypto Twitter. And your minute begins now.
On January 5th, 2020, I was told to refine my idea of what I meant by the, quote, fresh new hotness. I've taken the time to reconsider what I meant, and now I'm coming out swinging. Here's what we need to start with. Crypto Twitter. What do I mean? It's trite at the moment. It's just the same feed. There's nothing new. I've been on crypto Twitter since I started this job, just hunkering down and sifting through the shit and all the bits of the crypto Twitter, and it's swill. Here's what we need to do. We need to freshen it up. We need to get some throw pillows. You need to get the breath mints so that you can get less toxicity on there. And most importantly, no Twitter community can thrive without some good-ass jokes. All the jokes that are going on in crypto Twitter right now are exclusively like, oh, hey, check out my exchange, it's really funny, I'm CZ. It's not funny. You need to get some more funny people onto crypto Twitter. Otherwise, it's just going to die, go the way of the dodo, and nobody's going to want to go onto there no more. So, come on, let's freshen it up.
You know, Zachy, you made an important point there about needing to get more funny people onto crypto Twitter. An important place to start could be with the media outlets that feed into Twitter. BLOCKTV could use some more funny people on it. If only we could find some.
If only we could
Put a
find
call out to
some.
anyone who's funny. If they could come on BLOCKTV, we have a dearth.
No, but
here
this
at
is,
the station.
first of all, yes, I'm just pulling it out a bit from the buddy discussions. You're totally right. I think one of the issues that we're facing is that people on crypto Twitter have no sense of humor.
It's just real kind of just cardboard folks, huh?
And sense of humor comes and begins with the ability to laugh at yourself, folks.
Yeah, it's true.
The ability to laugh
they
at
laugh,
yourself.
the space laugh.
Yeah, it's kind of it's becoming Trumpy.
Which community do you find is stronger in your view? Is it Reddit's our Bitcoin, our crypto, or is it crypto Twitter?
So you're asking specifically about Bitcoin communities. So in that case, I believe that Reddit is a much stronger, not r/BTC, but r/Bitcoin is a pretty reasonable community. They're making good jokes, and all the good jokes get floated up to the top like the cream of the crop. However, on Twitter, ain't none of that. It's not going on. So what you need to do is you need to pull a little bit of influence from video game Twitter. You need to pull a little bit of influence from, I don't know, just funny millennial Twitter. And then
laugh
you need
at
to kind
yourself,
of
folks.
inject it in there.
Plus, hey, raise your hand if you think we're lacking on memes. Thank you. Okay, we are wrapping this up with Asher Westrup Evans, formerly of Australia, that country that's burning up. Continent, more likely. And you are here with nothing to dump, rather, Pump Telegram titters. And your minute begins now.
Yeah, look, again, nice bit of wordplay in the title. Let's not overread into that. But the fundamental fact is that Telegram has been ordered by a judge of the Southern District of New York to hand over the details of its $1.7 billion ICO. The financial details, the ins and outs going on behind it. Telegram, a company pro-privacy, we could call them, not necessarily eager to hand over all those details. And they're having to face this sort of issue head on. They were ordered by the end of Friday to hand over those details or explain why they shouldn't have to. And the fact of the matter is that when it comes to dealing with the Howey test, which is what they're having to deal with right now to determine...
From 1946.
From 1946, but still a very functional test to determine whether something is a security based on substance. One of the biggest elements of that is the efforts of others, as it's called. It's part of the test, which is the test for concluding whether or not what you have is relevant to be a security, whether it doesn't have the name, stock, or bond in it. Am I losing you, Zachy? Because I feel like you gotta rejoin me.
I don't mean to look like a donut, but I'm glazed.
Yes, so exactly. So they haven't handed this over, and this is a story that needs way more attention in the sphere.
Zachy.
Yeah, man. Just give him more attention.
No, but let's open this up.
Yeah,
Come on. The decision, not decision, the request to hand over the information. That specific information.
This is a similar discussion to what we had last week with Polynex deciding to take away KYC. Right. There's kind of two paths that a crypto company or crypto exchange could take. Either go with the regulators and kind of go with the traditional and get approval for everything, or go against it and say, hey, I believe in non-regulation, I believe in total free markets, and let the people decide on their own. And here Telegram's like, listen, US, I don't want to deal with you. If you're going to give me all this shit, you're too much of a hassle, but there's plenty out there.
But that's not necessarily true either. I mean, Telegram claimed that the SEC blindsided them in October when they made the emergency cease and desist on the release of the Gram token, saying they'd been complying with regulators the whole time. This certainly seems to fly in the face of that narrative if they're willing to comply only up to the point of not actually handing over what the SEC would claim is necessary documentation. I'm no legal expert. Is it truly necessary? Is it not? Who's to say? But the fact that they're having this sort of head-to-head fight doesn't bode well for that narrative.
They're in the wrong place in the wrong time, one can argue for Telegram.
Perhaps so. A
in
time when
many ways.
Libra is being
exactly.
targeted in the US.
They're at the front battle of something that is not just related to them in that respect.
Yeah, but it's a risk reward. Maybe Telegram was dealing with the SEC and giving them everything they wanted until they asked for too much. And then Telegram's like threw up their hands and said, listen, at this point, it's no longer worth it for us. They're clearly past the point. They're like, listen, you're asking for too much. We don't want to do this anymore. Hands off, back off. We ain't giving you shit.
Well, the 1.7 billion that their investors may want back from them.
That might stand in their way.
That might be the motivator.
Yeah, exactly. But gentlemen and lady of the press, I want to thank you all because you all win this pump and dump at the turn of a new decade, which will most likely bring us a lot of news. This was Pump or Dump on Block TV, and we'll be right back.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.